Okay, I give the okay.
Thank you very much. It's
Oh,
nice to know.
Brian, I
Yeah.
think I didn't say what I liked in my childhood because it was a train.
Yeah.
I think for me, I played a lot of games, but a game that I always remember was Kati. I don't know how it's
Got
called
you.
in English. I said Kati. So
Yeah.
that is a game that I used to play so much, and I think when I received some training from my parents because of that. So thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Christine, also for reminding us of that. So, also as we continue with the introduction, now I also want to invite one of our guests also, Eunice Alua Chudongo. Please, can you introduce yourself and maybe what you're doing?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Eunice Odongo. I'm also known as Chelsea. I think that's the one most guys know. I'm a prosecution consultant with WINAM with a special interest in children matters. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Nikiwa mdogo, I used to enjoy Raunda a lot. The one you use bladders and then you keep moving how high so that you jump and So I used to do that a lot and si kuringa lakini I would even go hiyo ya kuweka huku juu. I don't know whether you guys see where I'm showing here. And I would still get to that without any trouble. So I enjoyed that. I'm happy we are doing this today. Children matters are very personal to me, and I'm glad we are doing this today. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. So now I'm going to give the last person to introduce herself, also our guest, and we are very happy to also host her today. So I'll give it to Honorable Mitei, if you're hearing me, to just do your introduction. I don't know if Honorable Mitei is getting us.
Is that okay now?
Yes, okay.
Okay, sorry, though there's an echo. I don't know how we can clear that.
Okay, maybe, I don't know if you are having another phone from Facebook. I think it's going back. Or
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I am Jocelyn Mitei. I work at WINAM Law Courts, and I'm also the children's courts, although all courts normally handle children matters, but they decided at WINAM I should be handling children matters. Is there a problem?
No, we're getting you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So also wanted to say that okay, I tend to find children matters in court not very appropriate as such. I know we'll discuss more of this, but it is interesting handling children matters. What I used to like when I was a child, maybe I may not remember it very well. I know it has been long, but I used to imitate my teachers. I was a teacher. I remember my mom used to complain a lot because I used to beat the flowers, teaching them.
Mhm.
So I was a teacher, though I didn't end up being a teacher. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and we are glad to have all of you here. I know we have some of staff who are helping us with this in the background, those who are preparing the team. So we also appreciate them. They're doing a good work to make sure that everything goes well online. So we have a team behind us and different parts doing just to make sure we're okay. So for the viewers, we welcome you today. This is a very important day, and we are going to have a very good discussion. And we ask you to just keep it there so that you can be able to learn and also hear some of the things that involve the children, because in everything that we do, children are very important to us, and they play also a key role as Blue Cross, like Ishmael said. I think, like Ishmael had said before, we work with children in different parts, in schools, in the streets, and all that we talk about is also the rights of the child and also their participation, so that whatever they learn in schools, they're able to also do it in the community. And I know our moderators have a lot of questions on that because they work with children and they've had a lot of questions. So they will be representing children today. So at this point of time, I want to give it to our moderators who will take us through the next part of this session and be able to learn from each other. So, Kimizo.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much. I would like us to feel very free when you are going through these discussions. Let's use Kiswahili or English, and let's not be too serious, right? Okay, so the discussions we are going to have today, we just want to know what you guys are doing more, and there are also some questions that the children in order to present you and know how you are working on them. So to Mitei, maybe I'll just ask as a magistrate, when a case involving a child is brought to you, what are the things that you consider before you give a ruling?
So that's a very wide question.
Yes.
Yes, there are so many things to consider. And when you say a ruling, I do not know what you mean, because are you saying before when a child, what kind of a child? Maybe sometimes a child is brought under care and protection. Sometimes they are
Yes.
brought because they are child offenders.
Yes.
Sometimes it is a child who requires maintenance. Okay. I don't know what you mean by exactly by before I give a ruling, or because when you say a ruling, I might think maybe he's a child offender. I'm supposed to. What do you mean? It's a bit wide. The question is a bit wide.
Okay, so now that it's a bit wide, maybe you can just tell us in terms of when a child is an offender or when a child needs, what are those things?
Okay, when we find out first of all how the child came to be in court. You try to get information from this child. And then so that you know, the first thing is we normally refer them to the children officers for the reports, so that the children officer can inquire from them, can interrogate them, and get us the reports. But before we take them to the children officers, before we hand them over to the children officers, we first find out how they've been. Maybe they've been rescued, they are unwell, and what have you. So you look at the age, you consider the age of the child, you consider how vulnerable the child is. If you find that the child is okay, and you find it comfortable to place the child, maybe depending on the age. If the child is 10 years and below, then you take them to a children's home like Mama Ngina. If the child is above 10 years, then you can place them at the remand, remembering that we don't have rescue centers. So we can sometimes we take them to, we send them to the remand because we don't have other places to hold them, so that the children officer can get time to interview them and get us the report, so that we are able to know their needs and be able to issue favorable orders concerning them. So the children officer is supposed to talk to the parent, supposed to talk to the relatives, and find out the needs of this child, the welfare of this child. Then we'll make orders accordingly. Now, a child offender, when brought before court, that is second one, child offender,
Yeah.
we also consider several things. We consider we also consider the age, sometimes we may also consider the sex of the child, but that does not mean that one will be treated more favorable than the other. But this will inform so many things that we are going to, if the child, where we are going to place the child and all that. So we consider that, we consider the vulnerability of that child. If that child is a child offender, then has he offended, and whether the child can be placed, can be released to go back home. Maybe we can grant bond, and if the child, maybe the child, you find them, maybe the child has wronged the parent, and maybe the parent is at times is angry with that child, then you have to consider if it's possible for you to take back to this child, to take back this child to their parents, or you consider the welfare of this child. You consider all that. We consider so many things when it comes to children. You consider their welfare. You consider whether it is a case which you can proceed with it in court, you can handle it in court, or maybe you can let the children officer look at it. And then if it's a case you'll have to continue with, then all the rights as pertaining to that child, including the bail and bond, should be considered. And then if it's a case where you think, again, this child cannot proceed with this case, we need to, she's also a child. Sometimes they are brought and they are called child offenders, but you find that this is a child in need of care and protection. It's only that he went wayward because there was no proper guidance. So we also make a recommendation that maybe they be placed somewhere for maybe in a rehabilitation, depending on the age. According to the Children's Act, we consider the age and actually what the Children's Act provide. So we consider so many things which pertains to the welfare of the child, and we work together with the children officer and the probation officers. when it's a child, that was a child offender. Now, if it's a child who has been offended, as in the child is a victim. If the child is a victim, then we also consider such issues as this child, if it's the kind of the case that is brought before us, if it is neglect, then we consider the welfare. We try and we normally give it to the children officer to get a report, a full report again, the details.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and when we
Thank
get
you.
the report is when we
Yeah.
can make a decision according to or relying in that report as well. So
Thank
we
you so
consider
much.
the yes.
Thank you so much, Honorable
Yes.
Mitei, for
Yes.
enlightening us more on that.
Mm.
So maybe this one goes to Christine. Christine, could you please share with us what are some of the challenges that you face when taking children to court?
Thank you very much, Caroline. There are
Yeah.
many, thank you very much for the magistrate for sharing some of like before she makes a judgment or what should they really look at, and that is good. I believe it really helps, especially when it comes to children issues. However, we still have some challenges that us as institutions that support children who come to the courts. Like, for example, let me start with the case that we are handling right now. It has taken 3 years. It's a defilement case. It has taken 3 years. It has not, the judgment has not taken place. And this one also becomes frustrating for the child as the victim, because there's that going to court, coming back, going to court, and sometimes it takes even now when sometimes you have been given an appointment of 8, and maybe the court session begins at 11. So sometimes you get social workers getting to the courts and getting even frustrated with children at the court. So that is one of the challenge I can talk, or two challenges I've shared. And then the other challenge that I can also talk about is the issue of age, whereby you get children at the remand home. The girls, both girls and boys, they're older as compared to the children who are 10 years. There's also a challenge of a court process where you get like it takes long. I think I've shared that. Sometimes also the victims themselves, they change the story, or the survivors, they change the stories themselves. So it becomes again a challenge for you to justify to the court, for you to justify to the court that this is actually what happened. And now the survivor has changed, especially on a defilement case, especially if it's also involving a parent. The other issue that maybe I can also bring, the transfer of police officers who are handling the cases, because I believe police officers are always transferred. So sometimes it's become a challenge for you even now to know where do you start from. And then there's another challenge that you also face is whereby you get like a case was listened to and a judgment was made, and maybe the prosecutor, sorry, not the prosecutor, the person who had maybe defiled a child has been released, but the case was appealed, and then the person has released. So you get like, you meet the person in the community, but you as a case worker who was handling that case, you are not even aware. So, or maybe the family of the child come to you and say, you know what, we have seen so and so in the community. So it's also a challenge. So we feel like if maybe an appeal has been made, maybe organizations that are also working with those children, because the police officers are aware of our contacts, should also be sharing such information, whereby if a child has been, if a case has been appealed and the ruling has been made and the person has been freed, maybe because of lack of evidence or what has happened. So there's that continuation and there's also that involvement, so that by the time you even miss the client, you have at least a solid answer to give that client, because sometimes it's very challenging. You meet a client and you're not even able to tell the client that the person was released. I think then the children's desk, sorry, not the children, we in Kisumu, we don't really have a child-friendly court, because what I believe what are always used is maybe the magistrate of chambers or a court that is changed to the normal court that is changed to suit the children at that particular time. I know there's a good court of children in Kakamega, and maybe in future, if maybe through the judicial services, if we can also have a child-friendly court in Kisumu, then that could also be good. I think there's also a lawyer in place. Then there's an issue of cross-examining by lawyers. So for us as an organization that works for the children, sometimes we really feel some lawyers really intimidate children, like asking them questions again and again, and sometimes even it makes the child himself or herself become frightened. So it calls for some lawyers to also to understand. It's good that Eunice said that she is an advocate of children issues, but it is also important for other lawyers just to understand how to support children, especially when they are cross-examining them. Thank you. I think those are some of the challenges I can share for now.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing with us. And I hope the magistrate is taking notes of some of the challenges that we are facing. So I'll hand over to Wycliffe. Wycliffe, please.
Okay, yes, sorry. Hope you can hear me. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. There was a technical issue, a problem which has been rectified. So I was asking our lawyer in the house, Honorable Neto, as a lawyer, and maybe you've presented a lot of cases. I can remember even in that of maybe Pendo. We congratulate you for standing firm. I would like to know, how do you make sure child rights, as articulated in the African Charter on rights and welfare of the child, is not violated maybe during the cases on when a child is you're representing or you're standing in for a child? Kindly.
Well, thank you so much for that question. Your question is in relation to the CRC, that is how do I as a lawyer ensure that the rights of a child is protected? I want to look at it because, again, from the CRC, there are three provisions the rights are categorized into three, like the provision rights, we have the protection rights, and we have the participation rights, where provision rights would really talk about, a child needs to be provided with so many things, basic needs, shelter, food, and all that. And participation rights is where it is expected that children are also listened to. We need to get their opinion. We need to involve them in the decisions, even at the family level. But I look at it like, as a lawyer, we would come in at the protection rights. Because again, as a lawyer, I interact with children when it comes to representation in different capacities. For example, if it is a divorce case, is it maintenance, is it custody, or is it a criminal case? So basically, we are guided, or as a lawyer, I'm guided by the principle that the interest of the child is paramount. The best interest of the child is what guides me as an advocate when I'm handling a children's matter. So at every stage, you've got to ask yourself, the step I am taking, is it in the best interest of a child? For example, if it is maintenance, these are some of the things, because again, handling children's cases is, or children's issues is we have to give it a multi-sectoral approach. The lawyer must scan him. We must all look at the best interest of the child, whether it is the prosecutor, whether it is the magistrate, whether it is the lawyer. So at the end of the day, one of the things that is really key when we are handling these matters is to ensure that, for example, if it is in criminal cases, one of the things that is key is to ensure, if I am in this case, I remember Christine has talked about bundling children together with the older ones together with the children. Sometimes that happens. It is important that we ensure that children are separated from the older people. Once in a while that happens, so it is my duty as a lawyer to ensure and bring it to the attention of the court if that happens, because many a times the magistrates in taking care of handling that matter may not be aware. It is my duty to bring it to the attention of either the prosecutor or the magistrate. Or also just to make sure that when it comes to issues of divorce or custody and maintenance, if it is my duty as a lawyer to even advise my client to ensure that if it is divorce, they have to separate the issues between the two of them and handle a children's matter in a different, because many times you realize that when people are handling divorce cases, they get emotionally involved, and at the same time, what they do is to use the children to get to the other party. So one of the most important things, especially in a divorce case, is to advise my client. As a lawyer, I'm not just representing children, but first I'm an advisor. I have to advise my client on the best way possible, on the best interest of the child. And I know you have asked a question based on the CRC, but I know that our Children's Act also borrows a lot from the CRC. So yes, we are glad that we have a good law that takes care of children's rights. That is also one area that we are proud of, in this country. So basically there are so many cases. For example, if you look at Article 19 of the CRC, it talks about protection of children from physical abuse, neglect, violence, there's the sexual abuse, there's exploitation. So especially when it comes to the sexual abuse, these are children who are emotionally traumatized. And I understand, I understand when Christine said that we need to be very cautious, even as lawyers, when we do cross-examination of these children. I have, for example, handled a matter where the child, it was a sexual offense case, where the child was not ready to open up. And every time the child is brought to court, she is so scared and she can't talk. So basically at that point as a lawyer, I also have to ensure that, the child is given proper counseling and made to understand. You have to give them emotional support, because that is the only way, because we are talking about the justice system for the child. Then we really have to also give them that support emotionally, so that, and during cross-examination, or even examination in chief, not just cross-examination alone, because at times the issues that you bring out reminds them of, the perpetrator. It reminds them of a lot of things. So as an advocate, it is in my place to also ensure that emotionally I support, and if possible, I reach out to my colleague. If the cross-examination is going, is causing a lot of emotional distress to the child, then we can always agree, because we talk, we say, you can ask questions, but in a way that is friendly to the child, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that whatever we do does not affect the development of a child.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I invite prosecutor Eunice, kindly, in the event where children with different cases are brought to court, Christine shared something to do with the system that we are using. The justice system within Kisumu is not that friendly to children. For example, you brought children with different cases at the same place, then a case is being heard. How do you ensure you're protecting maybe that privacy of a child before that court? Hello, kindly. I don't know,
I'm not sure, was that still to Madam Neto, or?
Yeah, it was to Madam Neto, yeah. Just a minute before I invite you, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Can I request that you repeat the question? Actually, thought you were sending it to you. Were asking Chelsea that question. Sorry.
Yeah, it was to you. Okay, I was directing the question to you.
Okay.
There is this a case that has been brought to you. Maybe a child is being taken to court, and the way Christine has articulated that sometimes in Kisumu there is no system. The Kisumu system is not child friendly, and you remember there are children who are brought together or they are presented before the court with the different cases. For example, that of defilement, maybe different offenses. So, as a lawyer, what do you advise, or what step do you take to ensure there is child privacy?
You're talking about child privacy?
Yes, privacy within, because we are told that they are all brought together within a certain room, which is turned into a court.
Okay, I get your point. Many a times as an advocate in my place, what of my colleagues do is to request that children's matters are not done in open court. And I think most of the time, children's matters are done after the magistrate has dealt with all other cases, or if it has to be done before other matters are heard, then usually what happens is that they adjourn if it is open court. And as an advocate, if I feel it is something that should not be in open court, a case that should not be handled in an open court, usually we go back to chambers. We go to chambers. So the magistrate adjourns, we go to chambers, we hear the children's matter, and then he or she can resume go back to the normal open court.
Okay, do you separate children according to their cases?
Can I rephrase that question again? I don't get it well. What do you mean we separate them according to their cases?
Okay, for example, when they are taken to court, you remember they are all in one room. They are all in one room.
Now, maybe you need to separate issues here. You need to separate issues because we have civil cases and we have criminal cases. For civil
Yeah,
cases, you
okay.
find that there are adults or guardians who accompany the children to court. So, because they're not in remand. But for children from the remand home, there's a separate room where they are. They're not bundled together with people, with other children.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Eunice, welcome. Now as a prosecutor, how do you handle cases involving children, for example, in juvenile cases and that child violated cases?
I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean juvenile violated case? Maybe give an
juvenile cases. We have juvenile cases, and maybe you talk of that violation.
Okay. It's a juvenile means involving children. So you'll have to, if you're referring to something particular, maybe if it's a sexual offense or just another like assault or stealing or whatever other case. So I don't know which one you want me to handle. There are different cases, all happening to or with children involved. Yes, they could be a witness, a victim, or a survivor, or the child is the offender. So I need you to, which one do you want me to handle? Which one should I respond
maybe a child being an offender.
Okay, again, what guides me as a prosecution counsel or prosecutor as we call is the best interest of the child. Even as much as I am the one prosecuting the matter, at the back of my mind, I have to ensure this child, the child's rights are adhered to. For instance, you mentioned Kisumu is not child-friendly. I don't disagree per se. We try with what we have. I note that we don't have like a special court for children. So your case where a child is the offender, maybe let's say an assault, a child beat someone and they have been brought. So at the back of my mind, with the understanding that the best interest of the child still has to be adhered to, I'll consider the options that are available depending on the severity of that case. Sometimes the kid is brought to court, but after a while, the person who was offended is willing to talk about it. So mine is not just to ensure that the child is prosecuted and taken to, the full trial. I have to consider other child-friendly options. For instance, counseling. That's where I'll involve a children officer to bring me a report, because often there's something that makes this child do what they did. A child doesn't just wake up and steal or beat someone. So there's something, we need to understand what is driving this child to do what they did. And with that understanding, then the same will inform my decision whether this should go to straight throughout the trial, or so that they are committed somewhere where they can be assisted, or we explore those other ways where they are engaging counselors and all, because at the end of the day, all we want is what is good for this child. So you look at a case depending on the different and varied circumstances. So it's not just to ensure the trial goes on and they are taken somewhere. You also want to understand, why did they do what they did? Is the offended party willing to engage, so that they talk? Sometimes it's tempers that were flying, and with time people cool down and they want to talk. So you consider all that. It's not just a cut or a black and white kind of thing. These are children, so you handle them with that. And maybe just to add on your point about Kisumu, we try, when kids are brought to court, if it's a matter going through hearing or even to get these other considerations, normally it's done in camera. We clear the court. We ask everyone else who is not a party to that case to leave the courtroom. So it's just the child, the court, that is the magistrate, and the officers who assist us. That is, I'm referring to a criminal situation, a criminal matter. So we clear the court so that the child is also comfortable enough to speak up and get heard, which I think will be letting this child participate freely without feeling like there are people watching me and hearing what I'm saying. So we try to do that. When they are brought in as offenders, we also try, let me talk about Winam. We have 3 separate holding places. So they are separated. We have a place where it's just the kids. Then there's a place for adults, that is male and female. But for kids, there's a place for them, such that the other kid will not necessarily hear the case of, another kid that they are sharing where they are being held, because you call cases one after the other, not all of them at a go. So you could be all in that space. You are brought in with assault, the other one stealing. So we'll only hear what you have going on when the file is called out and into court. I hope that kind of explains and clarifies a bit. We don't ban them all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I invite you, Maya, remember those who are following us, you can like our page as Blue Cross Youth Center. Or you can follow us on Twitter at Blue Cross Kisumu. I would like to welcome Wamaya and us to take us in the next segment. Karibu.
Thank you so much, Wycliffe and Eunice. Thank you so much for enlightening us more on that. This is specifically, the question I'm going to put across is specifically from the children. They asked us to maybe talk about it. They were having issue, the children from the remand. The issue that they were putting across was that child that is an offender and child that need protection, when they're taken to court, they are mixed up in one place. And so during the trials, they get stigmatized, especially the children that are offenders. They get stigmatized and they are violated in the remand home. What do you think that you are doing to safeguard children's right and protection of privacy? This one goes to either Mitei or Eunice.
I don't know what you mean exactly by a child being violated at a remand home, because from where we sit as prosecution, we've not had a case where a child has reported that they were, violated in any way. We deal with the children in a very friendly manner, such that if there's something going on, they would tell us, if not us, at least mention to a children's officer. Because I am aware all the institutions that work together in matters involving children, and now you've mentioned the remand home, will do their best to, ensure their rights are adhered to. I don't want to talk on behalf of the remand home, but what I can say is that I've not had a case or my attention drawn to a child who has been violated in a remand home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can talk about the protection of privacy of the children. What do you do to protect the children?
As a prosecutor, if I'm dealing with a child, okay, at the time where I meet a child is when they are brought, unless I've been called maybe just to give advice. But when they come to court, like I mentioned earlier, we try our best to ensure that, one, they are not mixed up with the adult offenders. Where children have come to court as witnesses, sometimes they are witnesses in a matter, especially if the child was the one offended, then we, like I said earlier, we work with what we have. We try get them to separate. And from my talking with this child, whether an offender or the offended, I'll be able to tell whether this child is comfortable talking in court as a witness with everyone in, or it's a sensitive issue that I need to have the court cleared. Then I'll request that the court be cleared to ensure that this child is very comfortable to open up, especially if you talk about sexual offenses. It's a given. It's always that the court will be cleared so that this child may be comfortable enough, because all we want is she is the survivor or he is the survivor. We need to get what they have to say. At times, even when it could be a family member, or it doesn't just have to be a stranger seated in court. At times it's even a family member that they are not comfortable with. So to ensure that this child will be, willing to tell us what exactly happened, I'll clear the court and I'll ask any other person that she or he is not comfortable with to excuse themselves. So we try and create that environment for them. And because at the end of the day, both myself as the prosecutor and even the defense, if it's a matter that is defended, they'll also they acknowledge that this is a child. And in all matters, the best interest is paramount. So they'll agree with us. We'll clear the court. If, like someone was saying, an advocate, did they say harassing or during cross-examination? Like Madam Neto said, for me as a prosecutor, if I notice that is happening, because it might happen or it may happen sometimes, then I'll object. I'll let the court know that you do not harass my witness, and also remind all of us that this is a child. So you don't shout at the child or keep pointing at them. So at the end of the day, we work together so that justice is served.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To Honorable Mitei, some cases children offend the law when they are under influence of alcohol and drugs. And at the court, main focus is the offense committed. So what services do you offer apart from the one that that Eunice talked about, apart from the counseling? What other services do you offer to these children that are addicted to drugs as the underlying problem? Yes.
Yes, sorry for that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Catherine.
Caroline.
What I wish to add is that we always look into mostly we look into the welfare of the children, so that whether this child is a child offender, whether the child is a child in need of care and protection, whether she's a victim, we consider so many things all around. So if this is a child who's been accused of abusing drugs, then we will always ask the children officer to consider and order a report. We will always order a report or ask for a report from the children officer. Will do a social inquiry, and if need be, then this child will be referred to a favorable institution that can cater for that can handle that. Remember, we are also guided by the Children's Act. So we also order for such, considering what is provided at the Children's Act, by the Children's Act. That is, if the age depends, it depends on the age of the child. If a child is 15 years and above, then they can be taken for probation. Then there are different ways we handle these matters, but we always, as Madam Neto and Eunice stated, we always consider the best interest of these children. You can also order for this child to be taken for rehabilitation if need be. That is, if the case has, if the same is exaggerated, as in if the child has gone that far. So those are the things that we actually do. That is, looking at the welfare of the child all round.
Yes.
We make favorable orders that are in the best interest of the children or of the child. I remember you had asked a question. I wish to add something on what you had asked Eunice about the privacy of these children.
Please do.
You see, at times you may find a child offender is also a child in need of care and protection. You may also find a victim to be a child in need of care and protection. So when they are coming to court, treated as children in need of care and protection, we may put them together at that time, because they are now, okay, they are under the same category. They are children in need of care and protection. But again, it will depend on a child's case. If this is a case that maybe you may not want to expose this child, maybe this is a child that was molested or is a victim of defilement, then you may want to take this child to the chambers so that you can talk to them privately. You will not address them with the other children in court or in open court. So at times we take such cases in chambers and we talk to these children, and that is even where they open up and they tell you what they are going through. And at times it helps, and it also helps them retain their dignity. They don't feel as if they've been exposed or we try to protect their privacy. That is it. And then again, with the issue of privacy, we do not allow children to, okay, the state, sorry, the press to come and take photos of these children. We guard the children against that. And the other thing is, okay, as in we do not allow reporting. The other thing is, when we are reporting, when we are writing judgments concerning the children matters, most of the time you'll not find us writing the names of these children. And that is according to the law also advises, or yes, we normally use initials when we are reporting children matters.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because of time, I think I'm gonna hand over to Imizo to finish. Kindly, Imizo, take over.
Thank you very much. I think we are running short of time. I would like to invite or to give each and everyone 1 minute at least to give a word or a comment as we part. I'll start with Neto, a minute, then we give a comment as we wind up.
Thank you very much for this good initiative. The issues concerning the rights of a child is very important, and I hope you can further this discussion. You can have another session where we will answer specific and more structured questions. I would want to really applaud Blue Cross for doing what you're doing. Knowing very well that you work with children, this is a matter that is close to your heart. I would just like to call upon everyone that children are vulnerable. Children require our support everywhere. And let us have these discussions on how best we can protect them, because there are weaker people in the society. And it is not only about having a friendly justice system for them, but even back in the family, I would want to urge everyone that let us take care of our children. Let us protect them. I admire you know, for me, when we were growing up, a child belonged to everyone, and anybody would, you know, correct a child. So let us not see children languishing in desperation, and we avoid them. Let us see how best we can assist them, right from the family, even when they come to court. Let us all support our children. So thank you so much, Blue Cross, for organizing this. We hope that you can have more of this to enlighten the public, and I will always be available to do what I can. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Honorable Mitei, kindly.
For having us, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to address children matters. We know the time has not been enough, but we wish to talk more about children matters. And we are happy that you are concerned about children matters. What I would have recommend is that this system, actually, the criminal system does not favor our children as such, because at times you may want the children to be taught to be honest and to be taught virtues. But you see, the adversarial system, you find that a child is taught to deny, that a child has to deny an offense, so that you go all through proving what, maybe the child is even willing to confess that this is what I did. We need to teach our children honesty and bring them in a better way, so that they can make better leaders of tomorrow. So I'm thinking maybe we can consider that and help bring up our children in a better way, and address such issues like correcting them or helping them in a different system as opposed to the judicial or the criminal system. Thank you very much for everyone who has
You're most
contributed.
welcome. Okay, thank you. Most welcome. Christine, if you can hear me, karibu sana.
Giving us an opportunity to participate in this discussion. And two, I will also thank Blue Cross again for allowing us to have a discussion with the key people in the judiciary, especially having a magistrate, a prosecutor, a lawyer, because they play a very important role in the judicial service, especially now when we are working with children. I think my parting shot could be that we need to do quite a lot, especially empowering community on issues of juvenile justice, and ensuring that our courts or the judicial system is very friendly, starting from the buildings. Because as I said earlier, it is very challenging for even the magistrates themselves, the lawyers, the prosecutors, having to have children in their chambers, or just a normal court has been turned to a children's court. The other thing, I was looking at the National Council on Administration for Justice, the document that was launched last year, 2019, and there's quite a lot that has been said in that document. So I think as a government, I think that we need to really, or as a government, the government really needs to look at this document and make it a living document, like the issue of Children's Service Week. I think many people are not even aware of such weeks, and the Judicial Service Month for Children matters. So it's something that really needs to be created awareness on, and making people aware that they can even have a discussion with the magistrate during these forums that have been set aside by the government. Thank you.
We are welcome. We are welcome. Okay, now Eunice. Take over, Eunice.
Asante sana, Blue Cross, for having me today and the other members together to discuss the best that we can offer to the children. Mine is just to call on all of us, the players, to come together and coordinate. And I'm sure with that coordination, where each and every party that is involved is actively participating, we'll be able to, make not just statements like the best interest of the child. We'll actually achieve that in real and in practice. So let's all work together. I as a prosecutor, I can tell you that if a file brought to us from the police station, and then it's to us, then we are prosecuting, and then it's to the court as well, that is the magistrate. If one of these people don't do their bit, then something somewhere will definitely go wrong. We all have to do our part. The police will do their bit. When it's brought before a children's officer, they'll have to do their bit. And then when it's brought to me.
Thank you. And now allow me to welcome Brian, who is going to end the meeting officially. Karibu, Brian.
Thank you very much. A very good day and a good discussion. I know we still have a lot that we want to share and also talk about. And thank you for the viewers. I can see a lot of viewers, also some who had questions like Mshefa, Johannes Abuso, Mebo Kavala, Stephen Wanda. So we'll still engage with you online as continue. Stephen Okoto, also have different Alvina Ramadan. We have a lot, Coach Nyarjapunch. We have a lot of questions that there are in the comments. We thank you very much for viewing and staying with us, and for all the staff that have been in the background just to make sure that this session goes well. And we're also happy for the internet today. It worked well. And because we are finished, first I want to appreciate each and every one of you that are here. That thank you so much. And this I'll give our director a chance to close. Just say thank you to each and everyone also, as we look forward to celebrate Day of African Child, which is coming on Tuesday. We still ask you, if we call upon you, please just accept our request, because we are trying to give information to other people who are don't know much about child-friendly justice system in our country. So Ishmael, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, Ishmael. Okay.
Hello,
Okay.
Brian.
Hello.
Yes, unasema?
Okay, you can give a vote of thanks on behalf of Blue Cross, because for this wonderful session, also as we finish, just to say thank you to each and everyone.
I must say the deliberations have been so useful, and for our staff and the moderators. I know we are learning from judiciary, because we are not people who are judicial. We are those who are out there in the field and are hands-on. And so it has been really, really interesting to even hear from the lawyers and the magistrate and the social workers and their perspectives, especially what we need to do, the steps and the challenges that we have in Kisumu, especially in having children's, separate maybe courtroom or how it is called within the judiciary. I know this is a step in the right direction, and so it's really, really going to help us even as we champion the rights of the child and child participation and even seeking justice for the children. It's very important to partner together with you guys, and we really look forward to just not engage in this way, but even have one-on-one in seeking your advices, especially working with the children. I know Christine and at QUAP and us at Blue Cross, we have had a few challenges, and most of the times we go back to the children's department to look for options and ways of serving the children when matters violence or domestic violence or child rights are being abused. And so we know that we can count on you to come to our rescue when matters are not very easy. But even as we build up to the day, I want to say or echo what Brian has said, that we are going to work together even in the next sessions before the Tuesday. So thank you so much. Thank you for involving with Blue Cross. May God bless you even as you serve in your own capacities.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for viewers. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.